Hello everyone, it's Imran here. Welcome back to another video. So, I'm going to react to another audio story by Kiefer Adams, and this one celebrates 24 years of Thomas and the Magic Railroad, and this one is called The Lady in the Dream. So, it has been a while since I've, done a Thomas reaction on this channel. I do apologize for not been doing any Thomas reactions on this channel. There's not really been much from the Thomas channels that I'm subscribed to for me to react to. Although there are some other channels I do want to explore in the coming weeks. I do so yeah so yeah. But I was wondering when this Kiva had teased this video for quite some time, and it only took until today to come out. I think today marks 24 years since Thomas and the Magic Railroad came out in the UK. Gosh, cannot believe this film is 24 years old. It'll be 25 next year. It will. So the last audio story I actually from Kiefer was that crossover one, which was the world Thomas and the Worlds Beyond Solar. It was. You want to see match that out? I will have it up in the top right corner of your screen. And yeah, it was actually quite good. I wish it was kind of a little bit longer. I do wish there was a part two to it. But so hopefully, Kiefer, if you're watching this, you'll consider doing a part two to it. But the lady in the dream. So, what exactly happened before the movie's events? Well, this audio special is good. Basically, what Kiefer said is going to explain all what happened. So, I've no clue what's going to happen in this story. Obviously, it's going to serve as a prequel to Magic Railroad. It is so. It'll be interesting to see, and also I think Edward plays a role in it. So, yeah, let's just go ahead and see the role Edward is going to play in it, given the fact that he didn't appear in Magic Railroad because they couldn't find a role for him. So yeah, I know I haven't done many Thomas reactions over the past week or two on this channel, but not really been much for me to react to from the channels I'm subscribed to, although I will try and increase the Thomas reactions over the coming weeks by looking at other channels. But here we are, we have an audio special. Let's hope it's a good one. Links to I'm reacting to in the description down below as always. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and get straight into this. Let's see if this story really celebrates 24 years in Magic Railroad. Recording.
The Lady in the Dream. Written and told by Kiefer Adams. Sir Topham Hatt is proud of all of his engines on the magical island of Sodor. There's Thomas the Tank Engine, Edward the Wise Blue Engine, Henry the Green Freight Engine, Gordon the Proud Express Engine, James the Red Vein Tender Engine, Percy the small green saddle tank engine that loved pulling the mail, and Toby the steam tram. Together they all worked on Sir Topham Hatt's railway, making him proud and providing what he liked to call the 3 R's, being responsible, reliable and really useful. One night in the shed, Thomas returned after a long day's work and found the other engines complaining. "You really had to bring up that monster, didn't you, Percy?" grunted Gordon. "I'm sorry," grumbled Percy, "but all I said was it's been a very long time since Diesel 10 was on our railway." "And for good reason, too," snorted Henry. "I keep thinking about that demonic creature, and I don't wish to think about it any further." "Yes, you wouldn't be saying that if there wasn't a draft in the shed," Gordon insisted. Thomas didn't know what to make of it all. He wanted to ask Edward, but noticed that the old blue engine looked rather tired, as if he was not listening to the conversation at all.
Probably good for Edward to keep his buffers.
Thomas inquired. "You don't look like you've slept in days." "I'm fine, Thomas," said Edward. "I just had a long day, is all. Come on, everyone. I think we should call it a day." "Quite right, Edward," said Gordon. "Perhaps silly little green engines can stop chatting about monstrous diesels for once." Percy rolled his eyes as the engines turned in one by one to the shed. As the evening went on, Edward tried to sleep, but found that he kept waking up every so often. He couldn't describe what he was dreaming. First, he dreamt of a magnificent railroad. which was glowing green. Then he dreamt he was in the middle of the mountains, and a train whistle, unlike anything he'd ever heard
That's
before,
Lady right there.
was echoing all around him. It was like he was out at sea, and a siren was calling him, pulling him forward, so to speak, to the majestic, angelic noise that hypnotized Edward. Edward also had a horrible dream of the Big Dipper, the largest viaduct on the island, collapsing under pressure. Each time Edward woke up, he was glad to be back in the shed again, but every time he went back to sleep, the same dreams would repeat over and over again,
Oh, that must
causing
not be
Edward
pleasant.
to worry even more as the night went on. The next morning, dark clouds formed across the Sodor Railway. As he bustled about the yard, Percy complained bitterly. "Silly engines," he muttered. Percy was not only cross about being told not to speak of Diesel 10, but the draft in the shed had also been caused by him too. The troublesome trucks had given Percy a run for their money, and they had crashed into the side of the shed. Percy had insisted it wasn't his fault, but the other engines were quite divided. Sir Topham Hatt made sure that the shed would be repaired before he was due to go off on an upcoming holiday with his wife.
So that's how the whole in Titmouth sheds got around, because Percy had an accident with some trucks.
Percy was not only cross about being told not to speak of Diesel 10, but the draft in the shed had also been caused by him too.
So that's the whole.
The troublesome trucks had given Percy a run for their money, and they had crashed into the side of the shed. Percy had insisted it wasn't his fault, but the other engines were quite divided. Sir Topham Hatt made sure that the shed would be repaired before he was due to go off on an upcoming holiday with his wife. But for Thomas, a drafty shed was the least of his problems. "I'm worried about Edward," Thomas said to Gordon and James. "Have you two noticed he doesn't look well?" "Of course we've noticed," said Gordon. "But what do you want us to do about it?" retorted James. "Well, we're supposed to support each other if we're struggling," puffed Thomas. "I don't know what's wrong with Edward, but he looks very troubled." "You're telling me," said James. "I came home last night from the late night goods, and all I heard from him was groaning and whimpering. Whatever he's dreaming about, it must be horrible." "You shouldn't worry about Edward, little Thomas," said Gordon. "We've all got our work to do. And besides, Sir Topham Hatt has other things to worry about. He wants to improve the railway, and the last thing he needs is a silly little tank engine concerned for engines who don't go to sleep when they should." Before Thomas could say anything else, Gordon puffed crossly away. James was also annoyed. "Yeah, what he said," he huffed, and he too departed. Thomas sighed. "Oh, Edward," he said to himself, "will you ever feel better?" Unfortunately, James did not have a good day. The trucks nearly pushed him off the rails, and he had biffed them so hard in return that they had crashed into some buffers and had spilled their load. Sir Topham Hatt told James that until he could be trusted again with goods, he would stay in the shed until further notice. James returned to the shed later that evening. Gordon, Henry, Thomas and Percy were already asleep. Gordon was struggling too, because it was his turn to sleep near the drafty part of the shed. James was just about to close his eyes when he heard whimpering. "No, don't go there. No, it's dangerous." James was surprised. He turned and saw Edward. His face was winced, and he almost looked to be in pain. "Edward," James hissed, trying not to wake the others. "Edward, you're doing it again! Wake up!" But Edward didn't stir. "Edward!" James snapped impatiently. "Wake up, you good-for-nothing!" "Keep it down over there!" shouted Gordon, who had just been woken up by a chill breeze from the shed wall. James reluctantly gave up and tried going to sleep, but Edward's whimpering kept him awake all night long.
Oh dear.
The next day, Sir Topham Hatt instructed Edward to take a truck of scaffolding to the shed. The workmen soon had it built up and were preparing to order the bricks that would be needed to repair the shed. As Edward waited, Toby puffed past with Henrietta.
There's Toby.
He looked rather concerned. "Hello, Edward. Are you all right?" "Why do you ask?" replied Edward. "You look as if you've seen better days," said Toby. "Thomas came to see me at my shed yesterday. He's been quite worried about you. He says you've not been sleeping well." "Oh, don't worry about me, Toby," said Edward. Toby gave a sympathetic look. "Edward," he said firmly, "I know when there's something wrong with an engine. Have you told Sir Topham Hatt?"
Yep.
"There's too much work to do," puffed Edward. "I can't bother him now. He needs to sort out his holiday, and we must get everything like this shed repaired in good time." "Very well, Edward," said Toby. "But if you do need to speak to anyone, we're all here for you." Toby puffed away with Henrietta in tow. Edward sighed. Soon he made his way to the harbour to collect more supplies. He tried his best not to show that he was tired or struggling with his work. Edward made good time as he arrived at the harbour, but he kept thinking about what he had dreamt over the last couple of days. His most recent dream had seen him follow a mysterious engine into the mountains, but he could only make out its wheels. As Edward turned a corner, pondering over this, he heard a voice. "Good afternoon, Edward." Edward jumped, but standing before him was Sir Topham Hatt.
Oh.
"Good heavens, Edward," he said. "In all the years I've known you, I've never seen you jump like that before. Is everything all right?" "Everything's fine, sir," stuttered Edward. "Toby called on me at the big station," Sir Topham Hatt said. "He's been concerned about you. Have you been sleeping well?" "Yes, sir," said Edward hastily. "Very well," said Sir Topham Hatt. "I've just seen your trucks prepared. They should be ready for you now. You know, if you have a problem, you can always come and talk to me." Of course, sir. Understood,"
He doesn't want to admit it.
said Edward.
He doesn't want to admit it because Edward's what?
Sir Topham Hatt.
Edward doesn't want to admit admit that his dream because he's worried that no one will believe him and that he's just being silly. He is. That's why I believe is going on.
"I've never known Edward to be so jittery in my life," he said. With that in mind, he turned and carried on with his inspections of the harbour. "It seems you're quite right about Edward, Thomas," said Toby later that day. "I did have a word with him, but he looks as though he was holding back on not wanting to tell us what's going on." "It is worrying," said Thomas. "I know Sir Topham Hatt's going on holiday soon, but do you think Edward needs one too?" Toby chuckled. "Oh, Thomas," he said, if only it was that simple. Engines don't just go on holiday, you know."
Yep.
"I know, I wasn't thinking," puffed Thomas. "But it would be nice for Edward. He'd be well rested, and then he could come back to work and everything will be fine again." "You make a good point, Thomas," said Toby,
So
"but
this is how
at
Edward
the end
takes
of
the
the day,
Topham Hatt
it's
on
up
his
to
holiday.
Edward to tell us if anything's wrong. Now, come on, Thomas."
Because I remember in the audio story I reacted to last year, Splodge, make sure you see match that out, that Edward was the one who took Sir Topham Hatt on his holiday he did, and actually knew everything about the lady, he did. And so this audio special kind of goes a bit deeper into it. It does.
"We must get back to work. That's what Sir Topham Hatt would want." "All right, Toby," said Thomas, and rather thoughtfully he went to fetch Annie and Clarabel, while Toby made his way back to his shed, still worrying about Edward. By now, Edward had collected his trucks and was making his way back to the shed. The trucks had noticed that, on occasion when they puffed along, Edward would drift off to sleep, only to quickly wake up again. "Here, lads," said the lead truck. "Shall we have some fun with old Iron here?" The other trucks chuckled and laughed. By this point, Edward was just about to close his eyes again, but they shot open immediately when he felt a slight biff from behind. "Stop that!" he ordered. The trucks chortled. They surged forwards and caught Edward by surprise.
Whoa!
"Stop!" he wailed. "What are you doing?" The trucks pushed Edward faster and faster down the line.
Are those sparks?
"Wakey, wakey!" they wailed. Edward tried to apply his brakes, but they were useless against loaded, surging trucks. Presently, he began to go faster and faster, and up ahead he could see a sharp bend coming into view.
Uh-oh.
"Please stop!"
And there's the crash.
Edward pleaded as the bend came nearer and nearer. "No chance!" shouted the trucks. Everything happened at once. Edward took the curve quite sharply. He toppled to his side and coal spilt everywhere. The trucks bumped into his tender, then came off the rails one by one.
Okay, guys, you know what? Just give me a moment. I really need to just do something quickly. So just give me 1 second. Okay, sorry about that, guys. I just really needed to do something quickly. I did right there, so hopefully you guys understand. I'll probably cut that bit out in YouTube video editor when I upload this video, but oh, there's poor old Edward. Looks like his tiredness really got to him right there.
The guard was able to jump clear in his caboose van just in time.
Ooh.
Edward groaned and whimpered as the crash echoed across the valley. "But my buffers," he coughed.
Ooh.
But the trucks didn't care. They giggled and laughed in their silly way. Edward felt the world turn black as he groaned with more pain.
Ooh.
Edward. Edward.
So there's the dream. Edward
When
blacked
Edward
out.
came to, he was surprised to hear a soft voice calling for him.
It's Lady.
He looked around and found that he was on a railway he didn't recognize. He could see beautiful, colourful mountains, and the tracks around him seemed to glisten with a golden substance. Then he heard the very whistle he had heard in his dreams. Puffing towards him was a beautiful open-cab tank engine with a golden smoke box. Her 2 golden headlamps shone brightly at Edward. "Hello, Edward," she said softly. "It's you," said Edward. "What are you doing here? And why have I been seeing you in my dreams?" "Times will change soon, Edward," said the engine. "Your friends will be in grave danger. A familiar foe is returning to the island. Not just for your railway, but for me too."
Oh, Diesel
"But why?" asked Edward, knowing exactly who the engine was talking about. "What does Diesel 10 want with you?" The engine started to back away. Edward caught the engine's name on the sides of her tanks. "Lady!" he cried. "Wait! What's going to happen?" There was a great cloud of steam where Lady had stood. "Wait! Wait! Wait!"
And just like that, Edward wakes up.
"Edward? Edward!" Another voice was calling to Edward. He woke up suddenly. What? "Calm down, Edward. You're at the works." Edward looked around. Dusk was falling, and sure enough, he was in the workshops. And standing in front of him was Sir Topham Hatt. "What happened?" gasped Edward. "You were involved in a nasty accident, Edward," said Sir Topham Hatt. "Henry has only just brought you here, while Toby and Thomas are clearing up the mess." "Where is she?" cried Edward in alarm. "Where is she?" "Where's who, Edward?" asked Sir Topham Hatt. Edward looked down at his buffers. A tear rolled down his eye and
Uh,
splashed on his buffer beam. "I think, Edward, we need to have a talk," said Sir Topham Hatt. "It's clear that you've not been sleeping well at all." Edward partially explained everything, but he didn't want to admit his dreams. "Once we get you repaired," said Sir Topham Hatt, after Edward had explained everything, "I think I need to decide who will come with me on my holiday. One of
and
you
that's how
needs a
Edward.
break." And with that, Sir Topham Hatt turned away. Edward looked at his buffers once again. "Oh, lady," he sighed, and for the first time in a while, Edward drifted off to sleep while the men began to repair him, still unsure what he had experienced. A week or two later,
There they are.
2 diesel shunters were sitting in a small yard on the other railway. "Is this where the boss said he was going to meet us?" asked Dodge curiously. "Of course it is," retorted Splatter. "If he had not, he would have said, 'Go to that yard,' or 'Go to this yard,' or 'Wait for us at a bridge,' or 'Wait for me here,
There's
like I
Diesel
told
10.
you to, you morons,'" called a familiar voice. The diesels froze as Diesel 10 rolled in, his claw clenched and a sly grin spread on his face. Boss, why do you want us to go on ahead of you?" Splatter asked. "Because I wanted to make it look like the Fat Hat wants your services. One of his little puffball engines is going away with him, and so you two will offer your services for that engine. Got it?" "Yeah, I suppose," said Dodge, "but then get going!" Diesel 10 bellowed.
Ooh. So
Splatter and
that's how
Dodge didn't
Splatter and
want any
Dodge offered
further
their
trouble.
services.
They rolled away. "There's a small canyon on the island which I want to do some artwork to," Diesel 10 insisted. "Meet me there once I arrive." "Got it, boss," grimaced the Diesels. Diesel 10 cackled with delight. "Years ago, I took on the lost engine. Now, I'll be able to finish those puffballs once and for all. Isn't that right, Pinchy?" The claw clapped 3 times as Diesel 10 rolled away. But of course, we all know what happened next, don't
Yep,
we?
we do. So we get a little bit of an explanation as to why Edward didn't what made Edward decide to go on the holiday right there. It was all because um, all because he was having those dreams about Lady he was, and that Edward probably knew what was Lady told Edward in his dream what was going to happen and how the island was in grave danger. So this obviously explains why Edward went on obviously to holiday, as seen in Splodge, stopping out on his holiday in Splodge, and then obviously Splatter and Dodge offered their services to replace Edward while they're away, and obviously explains why Edward wasn't in Magic Railroad. So yeah, that was a very good explanation, Kiefer, as to what happened to Edward before the events of Magic Railroad. Oh, that must be horrible when you have a dream and it's trying to tell you something, and well, you're not having any luck. You're literally not having any luck in succeed in what you want to do and what you're looking for, and it causes a lack of sleep for you. Causes a lack of sleep. Yeah, I just feel bad for Edward. I do in this, but at least he managed to get some closure, and at least he was able to go on the holiday with be the one to take Topham Hat on his holiday. Excuse me. So yeah, that was a great audio story special to celebrate 24 years of Magic Railroad. It was. Oh, and we all could see Diesel 10 right there putting his plan when he heard that everyone was going to be going away to the mainland. He was going to. He obviously was. What was I going to say? He obviously was. What was I going to say? I was going to say something and now I lost. I lost it. I lost it. Wow, just wow. he obviously managed to get to go on take himself out on his holiday after his accident, and at least he was able to sleep in the end. But yeah, that's how Spada and Dodge ended up on Soda, because they offered their services. They did, and just so Diesel 10 could follow them, they could have Diesel 10 follow them onto the island. So yeah, that's all I can say right there. Is that's a very good explanation. It is. So that was, like I said, a good story to celebrate 24 years of Magic Railroad, Kiefer, and can't wait to see what audio special you come up with next before season 5 or season 6, or season 6 of your audio stories begins in the autumn it is. I definitely cannot wait for season 6 of your audio stories. Can't wait for that. You do want to see my previous Thomas reactions whenever it's an audio story or Trains adaptation. I will have a playlist up in the top right corner of your screen right now, and I promise you I'll try and do more Thomas reactions in the coming weeks. Whatever it's from the channels I'm already subscribed to, or maybe different channels I haven't seen yet. But I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that like button for me. Let me know in the comments down below what you thought of this audio special I reacted to. Also, let me know in the comments down below what other videos you want me to react to next. Follow me on Instagram, follow me on TikTok. Links to both of them will be in the description down below. Share this video, subscribe if you're new here, ring that bell to get notified when I upload new videos when I post the community tab, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye!